Could you imagine everything that's happened the past year or two in your life now since the last time we talked?
Probably, man. I honestly uh, have always dreamed big. I mean, you're a dreamer too, with what you've been able to do and the business you've been able to establish, and just where you've taken your business has been crazy. But I always thought I would be here. When I was a GA at Michigan State, I'd be the guy in the video room back there saying, when I'm a head coach, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or my teams are going to play this way. And I wanted to do it by 30, and I was able to accomplish that. I didn't know where it would be. If you were to say, would it be at Loyola Chicago, I'd be like, I don't know what the heck that place is. But the fact that I've been able to do it here and we've been able to accomplish so much has been incredible.
What's going on today? I'm the host, SchuZ, and joining me today is the youngest head coach in college basketball, one-time Missouri Valley Conference tournament champion, the youngest head coach in Todd Bozeman to lead his team to national ranking, which was done in 1993, the third all-time leader in games played in Oakland history, as well as their fifth all-time leading rebounder, ninth all-time leader in assists, sixth all-time leader in steals, and their winningest player in Oakland history, Drew Valentine. Coach, appreciate you taking time to come on today.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the intro, man. Pleasure to be on with you for sure.
Absolutely. Well, a lot has changed since the last time you've been on, and now you're a father, you're a head coach. Take us through what life's like right now.
Yeah, just a lot different. Obviously, I'm sitting in this seat, and I've coached a team in the NCAA tournament. Like you said, father now, and just a lot has changed. But I'm blessed to be here. Really fortunate, and grateful for a lot of people that have helped me get to this point, as well as a great support system that I'm lucky to be around. Whether that's on the phone, FaceTime, text, whatever it might be on the day.
When we last talked, if we were to talk about you becoming a head coach and you've achieved already everything you've done in just 1 year, could you imagine everything that's happened the past year or two in your life now since the last time we talked?
Probably, man. I honestly have always dreamed big. I mean, you're a dreamer too, with what you've been able to do and the business you've been able to establish, and just where you've taken your business has been crazy. But I always thought I would be here. When I was a GA at Michigan State, I'd be the guy in the video room back there saying, when I'm a head coach, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or my teams are going to play this way. And I wanted to do it by 30, and I was able to accomplish that. I didn't know where it would be. If you were to say, would it be at Loyola Chicago, I'd be like, I don't know what the heck that place is. But the fact that I've been able to do it here and we've been able to accomplish so much has been incredible.
Before we get into your story, I do want to touch up on one thing. And obviously, I'm not SchuZ, and I know you're now pretty much the king of SchuZ in terms of the coaching world. So for starters in that aspect, that you got to take us through that. Has SchuZ just always been something that you've loved since the day you were growing up and all that, or has that become something you've loved as you got older, or what kind of caused your love for SchuZ?
So just growing up, I think within, like the culture now is, it's really that intersection of, when you grow up in a city, or you grow up around just the game of basketball, it's like the intersection of like fashion, hip hop music, and obviously hoops. That's kind of the intersection. That's the culture. And so I've always, been lucky. My dad was a hooper, and a professional basketball player. And he always had them. His favorite pair is the Jordan 3s. He always had a fresh pair of Jordan 3s, like, growing up. And those, it wasn't like the retros were re-releasing like they are now, but my dad always had a pair. And so whether it was those or the pennies or the questions, the first, Iverson shoes, whatever it was, kind of growing up, I was lucky to have a pair of a lot of those shoes. And then, obviously growing up, wasn't fortunate enough to get all the shoes that I wanted. And so I was like, man, when you get to the point where you can, buy kind of what you want, take advantage of it. And so my sneaker collection has kind of grown as I've been an adult. And, hopefully in the next 10 years, it'll hopefully be looking somewhat like DJ. I want to get like DJ Khaled type closet. That's what I'm trying to get to. So
I gotta ask though, because you look at your coaching staff and you guys had all the shoe game all year long, and there's obviously different occasions, different coaches that you see them pull out with Jordans or whatever it might be. But was that a part of like the contract negotiation? Like when you officially became head coach, were you making sure that your coaches were all going to have Jordans, a different type of shoes to show up for games in?
yeah, I mean, it's it's crazy because not only am I the youngest coach, my staff, us together, we're the youngest staff in the country. And so it wasn't necessarily that way, but as I went through the process of hiring a staff, it kind of just ended up being that way. Who I liked and who I thought was gonna, help us continue to elevate this program. And we all try to present ourselves in a way where we're professional looking, but also we're staying true to ourselves, and we're a part of this generation that cares a lot about that aspect of it. And so it's been fun. One of my assistants, Patrick Wallace, we've got him. He's got the most improved shoe game in the country, I think. But no, it's just been fun. We love to do it and throw different combos out there, and create some excitement about our program in a different way than I think a lot of people do.
My last thing about the shoe aspect is you look at all the coaches in the country. I know there's been some debate about this too. Do you have the best shoe game? And if so, who else would you say is possibly in competition with you right now?
I would say from a head coach standpoint right now, I think I got it, man. I really do. There's a lot of guys. Jarence Howard, he probably, I got to give it to him. He's probably got the best. There's a ton of guys. Obviously, one of my guys, Jordan Mincy, he's got crazy shoe game too. But if I had to give it to any coach, it'd probably be my guy Jarence. But I'm not too far behind.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to get into your story and how you become the coach that you are today. So we head back. You were born and raised out there in Michigan, Lansing to be specific. What was it like growing up out there?
Yeah, it was crazy because like now, living in Chicago, the third biggest city in the country, I thought, Lansing was a huge city growing up. I really did. But it was interesting, kind of growing up in a time where, and we're still going through these times in our country right now with race, navigating that, with, being a biracial kid, my mom white, my dad black, and, just trying to navigate that and figure out, where I belong, where I fit in at. It was interesting, but, I had a great support system with my parents and my brother and, the family members that I had in the city. And I had a really good group of friends that I'm all, really close with still to this day. So we all kind of pushed each other to be great and, just really hung out with each other, because we were all kind of on the same mission. And we wanted to stay out of trouble and try to be successful. So growing up there was great. There was a lot of competition. There's a lot of really good, basketball players that played there growing up. It's not the same right now, but I'm hoping it gets back to that point at some point. But, you look at a guy like Al Horford, obviously he's from the Dominican Republic, but, he went to high school in the Lansing area and, so many different guys like that, from a smaller town perspective, it's crazy how much talent we had coming out of there. So a lot of competition in both football and basketball growing up, and was able to come out of it and be successful.
When you were growing up, was basketball pretty much just put in your hands from day one? Obviously, we know your dad and what he achieved at Michigan State, then obviously was a high school basketball coach, still is obviously for you guys when you guys went through high school too. Was basketball just something that was put in your hands at an early age, or was that something that kind of developed after you played a few sports, or how did the ball first get put in your hands?
Yep, exactly. Like you said, man, my mom is a huge, sports fan too. She was a cheerleading coach, but her family was really into sports. But it was from my dad, ever since I can remember watching him play and different leagues and different tournaments and things like that. And obviously getting to watch him play pro for a couple years before he retired. So ever since I can remember, I've just been around the game because of my dad.
When you were growing up, though, was coaching something that you saw in your future? Was that always like the main goal? Like you wanted to play basketball as long as you could and then go into coaching? Was it you wanted to play basketball into college, maybe even NBA professionally? Or when did the dream of coaching start coming to you?
I would say when I was in college, it started to become more clear that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, growing up, all I wanted to do was just play, 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 and just play as long as I could. And I was, I was a good student. Over 3.0 guy, but it wasn't like, I wanted to go to school to get a certain degree or to going to business or going to the health field or whatever it may be. I kind of just wanted to hoop and then kind of see where things led me. And then as you got to figure out when you're in college, what you want to study and all that. It kind of came down to like either going like the broadcasting kind of lane or like possibly coaching. And so during my senior year of college, that's when I was like, all right, my next step is going to be coaching. And so I'm happy I chose to take this path.
We have to get into you and Denzel though, because to have two brothers that are close in age, only about 2 years apart. You two obviously both played basketball, and you guys went through high school together for a little bit there. Obviously, both played collegiately. Denzel still playing professionally. What was it like growing up with him?
Man, it was awesome, to have somebody that's is passionate about the exact, kind of same things that you're passionate about. So many siblings, around the world. They're, just you're friends with people and their siblings. They're just so different. And growing up with a sibling that was close in age and was into all the same things that I was into was, it was awesome. I have, a built-in best friend for life. And I'm a really, big supporter of his. And he's been able to accomplish so much. He's an underdog that's really beat the odds, and I'm really proud of him. And it was just great growing up. We had so many fun times, and we're still having crazy times. As far as just the reality of what we're able to do for our family now. It's crazy to us based on how we kind of grew up. So, really proud of him, and I've been fortunate to have a built-in best friend for life.
I know you guys had to play a lot of one-on-one games growing up. So, what were those games like, and just what was it like going up against him one-on-one?
Yeah, we probably until I left to go to college. I mean, I was, always, you know, beating him a little bit, but he was always competitive and tough and obviously talented. But one on one is something that I can still do. I still get out there and play with the guys a little bit. Only 3 dribbles now, though. I got to limit the dribbles, but yeah, no. I remember my first after my freshman year when I went home when he was going from I think his sophomore to junior year of high school. When I went home and I think we played like in August when I got home from school, and I was like, all right, yeah, like he's got it. And so I haven't been able to really beat him much since then, but hey, it's all right. We're both in a good spot. If I was as good as him, I'd hopefully still be playing.
Well, something that's unique though is you kind of touched up on your parents a little bit, but we know how challenging it is to get one son just to collegiately, rather, and especially on top of that, to get one son to play in the NBA. But to have two sons play collegiately, one goes to the NBA, one is the youngest coach in college basketball, obviously is not a common thing. You're not going to see that too often. So, how big was your parents in being able to help you guys become this successful this early on in life?
Yeah, everything. Lucky to have great guidance and parents that didn't just baby us and think that we were the best thing ever. They held us accountable, both on and off the court. We were it wasn't like we were able to just do whatever we wanted to do. They were pretty strict, but that helped us stay focused. And I'm forever grateful for their vision for what we could be. If it wasn't for them kind of laying the foundation down and kind of setting the bar for excellence and greatness, we wouldn't be able to do this. And so from an academic standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, kind of just showing us what it took to be great, the sacrifices you had to make to be great, and keeping us focused on our goals. If that was what we truly wanted to do, is what our parents were able to do for us. And like I said, they didn't baby us. They didn't, just tell us how good we were, and they made us earn everything that we were able to do. So very fortunate to have such great parents that had that goal for us once we kind of set out to do that, and love them obviously for that as well.
What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've taken from your parents that you've applied to your life, even up to this point now?
I would just say like I kind of stated, like you got to sacrifice to be, you know, in a good position. You can't just do what everybody else is doing or follow certain trends. You have to be different, and if you want to live different. And I try to, portray that to my players. I try to portray that to my daughter. I know she's only one right now, but I try to portray that, with her. And then also like accountability equals love. Those kind of two things. You got to sacrifice and work hard. And then when you get out of line, or you're not focused, or truly doing what's necessary to be successful, you got to be held accountable, and you have to want to be held accountable. And so those lessons with accountability and the work ethic, I think, are the two biggest things that I've learned from them.
You look back on all the memories that you have created with Denzel so far. What would you say is your favorite memory? If you go pick one memory that you two have created together, what's your favorite one?
I'd say a couple. The first one would probably be, I'd say probably three that I can just think of off the top of my head. The first one would be when we made the Final Four when I was a GA at Michigan State, and we like hugged and embraced. It's kind of like a photo. I think it's on both of our Instagrams. That was insane, because you grow up, and we watch March Madness. Obviously, everybody watches March Madness, and being able to be a part of a coaching staff with my brother on the team, and see how well he was playing, and he was, killing it, and at the program that we, grew up loving, with my dad being a former player there, my mom being a graduate of there, at Michigan State, was just, something I'll forever remember. And then my parents were there in the stands and seeing how proud they were, not only of Denzel, but me. That was awesome. The next one would be the green room on draft night.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody grows up watching the draft, and you dream of getting a chance to play in the NBA. And the fact that I was able to be in the green room when my brother got his name called. Most people act, pretty cool, but we were like hype. We were passionate because, that's not normal for to do. That's elite to be able to say you did that and accomplish that. So that was pretty cool. And then I would say the third one was watching him play his first NBA game in person. That was incredible for me. So those three things.
I have noticed that he's been around the practice as much as he possibly can. Obviously, when you're in a season, the kind of lineups was hard to be there a lot. But eventually, when he does decide to hang it up someday and decide to move away from basketball, will you have a spot for him on coaching staff? Like, is that something we could possibly see two Valentine brothers on the same coaching staff?
Maybe. I think he's still so locked in on playing. I don't even know if he's, really giving much thought to what he's going to do when he's done. But definitely something that I could see him being really good at. He's got a great perspective. He's honest. He's a really good evaluator. And I respect his just his thoughts on the game. So definitely something that I would love to do one day.
Let's go a little bit through your high school career. And something I'm not sure too many people know is that you played football in high school too, and you actually were a starting quarterback for 2 years. Walk us to that love. Like, what got you into football, and just what caused that passion for yourself?
Yeah, it was kind of like, football and basketball were like the two things, I guess, that, most people did in the city. And so that was what all of our friends did and what our parents watched. Those were the two sports that they watched. And so, we played it, obviously, growing up all the way through. I played all the way through high school. And it was a sport that probably came more easy to me, like as far as just naturally, because I trained basketball year round, but I only played football during the season. And I was, solid. I'm not going to say that I was the best player in the country or anything, but I was pretty good. And my teams won some games. And so it was something that just came natural to me, especially with being able to lead people. I think that was one thing that really helped my leadership skills was playing football and trying to, lead so many, in basketball, it's different. There's only, 10 to 15 guys out there. In football, you've got, in high school, you've got, 50, 60, 70 guys out there that you got to be a leader for. And there's so many different cultures and backgrounds and lifestyles. And so, trying to pieced that together, that really helped me, I think, be a leader. And so forever appreciative to play the game. And football is actually the sport I probably like to watch the most.
Mm.
Love watching football.
So who's your favorite football team then?
I'm a big, like, when it comes to professional sports, I'm a huge, quarterback guy. So, obviously, like Cam Newton, I loved him when he was in Carolina. I think obviously Brady's the GOAT. Huge fan of Brady. Aaron Rodgers is crazy talented. Mahomes is crazy talented. The way that they can throw off platform is unbelievable. And I really like Justin Herbert, the young boy. I'm a huge fan of Justin Herbert. So he's probably one of my favorites right now. I try to get him in fantasy every year if I can. But when it comes to like college, obviously if Loyola had a football team, they'd be my number one. Or if Oakland, my alma mater, had a football team, they would be my number one. But Michigan State is also my alma mater. So Michigan State Spartans are my football team. But as far as NFL, I love players.
Absolutely. Well, on the basketball side of your high school career, then let's go into your upperclassmen years. And that's when you establish yourself, and you also get to be around Denzel a little bit too. Then I know you guys only got to play, I believe, 3 games together in total, but you guys are all 3 family members are together now. You get yourself and Denzel, and your dad's coaching you guys. What was that experience like?
It was just like a crazy dynamic because, like I was the senior on the team and me and my brother are best friends, but he's the only freshman on the team. So I'm trying to like balance out of like being a really good teammate to all my teammates, but then also making sure my brother's taken care of. And then my dad is coaching us, and like I want my brother to be good. So like I'm trying to like help him not get yelled at and trying to, but then also not trying to like show favoritism too much. So it was a fun dynamic for me because that's what I love doing. I love connecting with people. I love connecting people and trying to help people reach their goals and dreams. And so that was fun for me. And I know it was fun for my dad and for our parents and our family to, come to those games and watch, us, play together, even though it was only 3 games, we got to play with each other.
So going through that recruiting process, then I know you had quite a few different schools that were in the mix for you. As we know, you ended up going to Oakland, but I believe schools like Drake was in the mix, Central Michigan, Toledo, Western Michigan, a few others. Who did that recruiting process come down to? And ultimately then, what was it about Oakland that won you over?
Yeah, so I had an interesting recruitment. Like I said, I trained basketball year round and always kind of thought of myself as a basketball player. But my junior year of football, we went pretty far. I forgot where we went pretty far in the state playoffs. And I had a couple really good, talented football players on my team. And the way football recruiting used to go, I don't know if it goes the same anymore. But like college coaches would come to your school. And so they would come and watch. One of our football players was like a lineman. And he was a high level guy, like a top 100 player in the country. And they would see him like pass protecting for me, like a, 6'4", 6'5" quarterback. And they'd be like, who is that? And so then I would get called down, and I started getting a bunch of interest for football. So going into, that summer where you're playing 17s AAU, I also started to go to like more 7-on-7s and football camps and things of that. And so I decided, going into my senior year, like, okay, I'm going to give football a shot and see, what happens with that. But at the same time, I'm still going to, play AAU and come up with a list of a couple schools. And I had a couple visits set up, but, for basketball. And then I was also going to see what happened with football. But I tore my ACL my first football game of my senior year. So after that, I had, I think, like around 15 offers in basketball, and pretty much the only schools that still wanted me after that was Oakland and Central Michigan. And I had probably, even before all those 15 offers, I had the best relationship with Sadi Washington, who's actually an assistant coach at the University of Michigan right now. That was my guy. We both went to Lansing Sexton High School. Both of our dads played at Michigan State. We both had brothers that were players as well. And so we had a lot in common, and that was my guy. And he actually came to my surgery, my ACL surgery, and I wasn't committed or anything. And he was the first person I saw when I woke up from my ACL surgery. And right then when I woke up from that and I saw him there, knowing that he was going to be there to support me, and he had that kind of bond with me, it meant a lot. And so after that, I pretty much called him and committed like the next day. So
That's a unique thing. Obviously, I think that's another example of God obviously works in crazy ways. You always got to plan for people because had that ACL not occurred, you could have possibly went and played football and maybe not even gone to Oakland, which probably may not have given you the opportunity to be an assistant coach down the road too there. But if you would have considered continue playing football, so do you think that would have been something you could have seriously pursued at college level? Played both football and basketball, just basketball. Like, what do you think could have possibly happened had you not torn your ACL?
Yeah, I think for sure I could have. I think I could have played at a pretty high level in
Mm-hmm.
football, and maybe been an NFL quarterback. I think I truly thought that I had that potential,
Mm-hmm.
um, but um, like you said, everything happens for a reason, and I'm really lucky. I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I had went along that path, and so I'm really happy with how things ended up working out.
Well, it's heading to your freshman season then out there at Oakland, and you guys have a pretty solid overall season, 26-9 record. You don't start any games, but you're a part of the rotation there. What was your freshman year of college like?
It was really, I guess, like a combination of humbling and then also um, uh, just like you learn a lot. I don't know the word, but just learning a lot about not only yourself, but kind of um, what it takes to be a successful man, I guess you could say. It was
Mm-hmm.
humbling from the aspect of you know you have all these expectations of you've always been a great player so far in your career, no matter what year you are in school, on your teams. And then you go to college and you play on a really good team. Like, it's hard for freshmen to be really good players on really good teams, around the country. It's just hard to do that. And so finding a way to still have a role and feel valued and, really pushing through, because I didn't play. And so I got some DMPs in some games. By the end of the year, I was playing in the rotation. And it was because I think I worked and worked and worked, and got to give a lot of credit to Sadi Washington. Obviously, he worked with me on my game and watched film with me and helped me get better during the year so that I was able to play by the end of my freshman year. But it was humbling. You had to really work hard and outwork people and, be completely bought into what the coaches were saying for you to get on that court to earn that trust. And then also, like, just learning how to be as a man with your away from your parents, away from your family. I wasn't super far. I was only an hour and a half away, but
Mm-hmm.
growing up and trying to figure out how to handle your business academically, socially, was interesting to figure out. But I think towards, like you said, the end of the year, I started to figure things out, and I kind of took off from there.
That is a unique aspect because for a lot of players, especially in today's new game of transfer portal and stuff, obviously a lot of freshmen that don't play, they might go into the portal. They don't want to keep pushing through and keep working to become the player they could potentially become in that school. And obviously, there's different reasons to that guy transfer. But for yourself, what was that mentality like, and what kind of kept you bought in, saying, I might not be the player I was in high school yet in terms of the minutes, in terms of the numbers I could put up, but I'm gonna stay bought in. I'm gonna trust this process, and I believe that eventually I can become the player once again that I am one of the go-to players. I am one of the vocal points of this roster. What kind of kept you bought in there?
I would say I had really good support system, like a lot of times, nowadays, from my perspective, people around the young men that are going through those hard times just say, okay, they try to, put the blame elsewhere rather than looking internally or understanding the circumstance of why you might not be playing. And so I had really good support system with my dad and my mom, who just said, take control of your destiny and your greatness and find a way to make it work. So I was lucky that I had them. And then I had, like a coach, Sadi, who was there as an assistant coach, who really believed in me and I had a great relationship with, and that gave me confidence that I could be a great player there one day. So I would say the combination of, my support system, giving me support and letting me like vent and talk, but also pushing me and holding me accountable. And then I had a great relationship with my coach, my assistant coach, Sadi, and then also one of my other assistant coaches, Jeff Tungate. I had a really good relationship with him, and those guys really encouraged me to keep going and keep pushing, and that I could be a great player at Oakland.
Coach Campy has been an incredible coach at Oakland. He's obviously built a legacy where he's still running to this day. When you look at his impact and kind of what you might have learned from him over your 4 years there, what would you say are some of the things you took from him? Like as a player, and obviously we'll talk about you as a coach there too a little bit, but like how did he influence you both as a player at that point in time, but now as a coach? Like what's some things you've taken from him?
I would say like one of the biggest things is that once you earn trust with him, like he just will play you the whole time and won't take you off the court. I mean, my last 2 years, I think I averaged like 35 minutes a game, but I averaged like 35 minutes a game because I earned his trust.
Mhm.
And so, making your like it was I knew how much I knew that I had his trust by how many minutes I was playing out there on the court. And so that's one thing I try to do now is like, let my players play through some mistakes once they have earned trust. Now you gotta do a lot to earn trust. And there's different standards that go into that. But that was one of my favorite things about playing for him.
So also at the same time, we talked about your favorite memory with a couple of different people before, but what's your favorite memory with him now? When you look at the 4 years you play with him, or even the 2 years you're out there as a coach with him, what's your favorite memory that you create alongside Coach Campy?
I would say, getting the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament my sophomore year. My freshman year, I was, like you said, I played a little bit, but I wasn't I wasn't a starter. My role wasn't the same. I didn't feel the same way I felt my second year when we were going to the tournament and I was, playing big minutes. And, that was probably my favorite memory there at Oakland.
So you go into that sophomore year, then as you just kind of touched up on a little bit, but you get a much larger role that season. You start really becoming a key part of the rotation now. What was that second year in college like?
It was really gratifying, because I actually saw one of my teammates this weekend, Reggie Hamilton, who actually led the nation in scoring my junior year. But we spoke about just the work ethic that, a couple of the guys on our team put in. It wasn't necessarily everybody, but Reggie Hamilton and Travis Bader and Will Hudson and Corey Petros really put some work in. But there was guys on our team that really worked hard. And so that work started before my freshman year, but I didn't see the results my freshman year, but I kept working every single day. I shot with Sadi and Travis every day after practice, and I would come in before and on my own and at night. And that summer going into my sophomore year, I was doing the exact same thing. I was, 2-3 times a day, really putting that work in, really giving my all to be the best player I could possibly be, or thought what was giving my all at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of my sophomore year, I didn't even see the success, but I stayed with it. And I just kept working. And then I started seeing little small victories. And then I was able to, by pretty much New Year, by the time January started, I was able to, be a full-time starter and, pretty much not come off the game unless I asked to come off the game. So it was gratifying that, the work that I put in was finally starting to pay off. And so I talk to my players about that story all the time. Like, you might not see results in a month. You might not see results in a year. You might not see results in 2 years, but eventually if you continue to work and believe in yourself and trust the process, it's going to pay off.
If you now look back at your college career, is there one thing that you have a much more wise mind, obviously, as a coach's perspective, especially? Is there one thing you would have changed about yourself rather than an approach you have, maybe you put in work wise, or anything about your career in college? Like, is there one thing that if you could go back, you'd possibly change?
Yeah, I would spend more time working on like my body. It was kind of the older school mentality of, you know, don't lift legs or don't, things like that, where, you look at the NBA now, I mean, guys are doing 20, 30-minute lifts after games, staying on top of your body and nutrition and things like that. Like, I wish I would have spent more time focusing on that, because sports performance is it's half of the battle. It's not just because I really, really worked my butt off at growing my skill and being prepared to play well. Like I really did. Like, I worked my butt off more than a lot of people. I really did. But I didn't spend time working on my body or nutrition the way that I should have. But we didn't have that structure in place at Oakland to do so. So when I was a player, so now with how I run my program, I make sure to emphasize that with my players, like, this can really make a difference for you as a player. And so we try to make sure we have the resources from a nutrition standpoint and from a sports performance standpoint to help our guys be the best players they can be.
Going to that junior season, now you're officially a full-time starter. As you said, you're now playing one of the more minutes in the entire country. I think it was 35, 36 minutes per game that season. When you were heading to that junior year, what was your expectation for that year, and what was that junior year like?
So we had just won 2 championships in a row, back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And so our expectation was we were the best team in the league and we were going to win the league. And, we fell short. And so, but it was still a good year. You know, I think, I did some good things individually, but, my main thing has always been winning and putting the team first, and not being able to play in March Madness is not something that you don't want to do you want to play in that every year. And so we had the expectation internally that we were the best team in the league and that we were going to win a championship, and we didn't. So we didn't accomplish the mission, but there was some good times that we had during the year. We were able to get another high major win against Tennessee that year. That was one of my favorite games of that year. And so did some good things individually, but fell short as a team. And so I didn't think it was as successful as it should have been.
Give us a little more in depth about the winning mentality, because you displayed that throughout your entire playing career. And now as a coach, you've been successful at winning every place you've gone so far. What exactly makes up a winning mentality? Because you've also been able to identify that in players that you got from the transfer portal, you recruit from high school. What exactly is a winning mentality?
It's not caring about your individual success more than the team's success. It's if you go 3 for 20 shooting, but your team wins by 20, that you're truly genuinely happy after the games. Now you can be frustrated with how you played individually, but you don't let that, get in front of the goal or the mission of what's going on. And holding your teammates accountable. That was something that I always did as a player, and I do as a coach now. With my players is holding them accountable and holding them to a standard, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so getting people that are driven by team success and not just individual success is something that we really evaluate here at Loyola. And I think that was one thing that I was always able to do is, my dad said, and Draymond talks about this all the time too, is like the best thing somebody can call you to me when they're evaluating you as a player or as a coach in your career is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody calling you a winner is the highest compliment to me, because that speaks not only about you, how good you are as a player, but it speaks a lot about your character. And so men want to be judged, I truly believe, by your character. And I think that is something that I've always tried to do, is just make sure that I'm winning at the end of the day. Not even just not as worried as much about how I'm doing individually, but how my teams are doing.
You said earlier that going into that senior year, or at least during the senior years, when you first started getting the idea of wanting to pursue coaching then. So what brought you to that then? Was it something that you just started realizing, I could become a better coach than I could possibly become a player? Was it a conversation you had with your parents or Coach Campy or someone else? Or what then brought you to the idea of wanting to become a coach then?
Yeah, so I got injured again my senior year, and I got to, my knee was so bad to the point where I couldn't even really practice. Like coach just wanted to save me for the games, because I had kind of pick one or the other, because I didn't have much to give. So again, I worked really hard on my game, and I probably spent too much time in the gym, not taking care of my body as well as I should have. But so during my senior year, when I would be on the sidelines, in practice, I would be like really, coaching guys kind of, because I, knew the system and I knew kind of what coach wanted to do. And, my coaches were like, man, I really think that rather than trying to play pro, I really think you should consider coaching. And for me, I was just like, man, I'm just going to have surgery after the year and then I'll be fine. That was kind of where my thought process was. But as I had surgery and, after the season, and, my body wasn't responding the way that I wanted it to. Coaching became even more real. And I was lucky and fortunate that Coach Izzo was, offered me the position. Really lucky and fortunate, knowing how hard it is for people to get GA jobs, especially at a place like Michigan State with the tradition and history that, that video room has there. So very lucky, very fortunate that I was able to get that job and get that role.
You also mentioned earlier that your goal became you wanted to become a head coach before you turned 30. Was that the goal that you established right when you bought into coaching, or when did you first start getting that goal for yourself then?
Yeah, I would say, it wasn't like I went in. It wasn't like I became, went to be a GA and was like, okay, now my goal is to be a head coach by 30. It kind of happened organically. I would say probably, sometime between my first and second year as a GA when I started to get a better grasp. I still don't have a complete grasp of what goes into this business. I'm learning still. And I think I've got an idea, but I don't fully know what all it takes to be great. But as I started to grasp a bit better about what it takes to be successful, I thought that it was realistic, and I would just tell people that almost like manifest in my life, and because I really believe in that, and so yeah.
Well, last time I want to touch up on your Oakland career is you look back at the 4-year run you had, all the numbers you put up, having yourself in the top 10 in multiple stat categories. What would you say is the biggest thing you accomplished, the thing that means the most that you did throughout your Oakland career?
I would say most wins in school history.
Mm-hmm.
It's my jersey probably will never be retired there, but the impact that I left there to me was unbelievably noticeable. And I don't think there's a coincidence. You look at the most successful years from a team standpoint ever in Oakland history, whether that's me as a player, as a coach. I've been there in those, pretty much those 6 years, or 5 years, 6 years, whatever it may be, most 25, every year that Oakland won 25 games, I was there in Division One. And so I don't think that is just by chance or coincidence. I think that there's a reason behind that. And so the pride that I have in being the winningest player to ever come from there so far means a lot to me.
How did you get the opportunity to become the GA at Michigan State? Was that just a phone call with Coach Izzo where you just hang out with Denzel one day and he just happened to come up to you and talk to you about it? Or how did you get that opportunity?
So one day I went up to watch when I was a senior, I went up to watch Denzel play. When we had like he played on like a Tuesday, we had I didn't have very many classes as a senior, so I was able to go up and watch him play a decent amount, his game. So I went up there and I was up in the coaches' offices because that's kind of what Denzel did after the games, was going, talk to his coaches and get some film and all that. And I saw Coach Izzo, and I approached him, and we kind of like approached each other because he had been asking Denzel kind of what I was thinking about doing. And we kind of just started talking about it. And he was like, hey, I'm going to have a spot open for a GA, and let's get in touch after the year. And then after they lost in the Sweet 16 that year, it was in Indianapolis and they lost to Duke, lost to Seth Curry, that Duke team. And I saw him actually the day after the game. I saw him, and we spoke, and it kind of just went from there.
So you get out there, and once again, like you said, this is not an opportunity that everyone gets. This is a unique opportunity. You could be a part of Michigan State, and you get to be a part of two incredible teams, being around countless NBA players too in that time. When you get out there, though, your very first year, take us through that experience of just being around a team that makes it to the Elite Eight, a team that wins almost 30 games. I think 29 wins that season. What was that experience like?
It was really crazy. I mean, the talent level on that team was unbelievable. I mean, I think we had like 5 or 6 NBA players on that team. So just more like even how practice was every day was insane, the competition level. And then just like how hard everybody worked, from the coaches to the players, and the standard that Coach Izzo set in practice every day. It was truly eye-opening, and it was motivating, and it was inspiring for me to be a part of that. And so very fortunate I was able to, because I think my brother, he was on the team. So because I had relationships with him and, some of the other guys on the team, and I think I had a decent pulse of what's going on the team. Because of that, I think I had a bigger role than some GAs might have, because I, had such a great pulse of the team. So I was given a decent amount of responsibility. Obviously, the assistants and Coach Izzo and the Dobo and everybody video, like they all had way more responsibility than me. So I'm not trying to take any credit, but definitely helped and assisted in my own way, in my own role, to help us get to an Elite Eight that year.
Obviously, recipes to Adrian Payne and all that, but he was a part of that team right there. And we know how elite and how special he was that year you're there. Obviously, he's one of the top players in program history, what he achieved out there. What would you say is your favorite, or the memory that comes the first to you about when you look back at your time with Adrian Payne, rather that be at practice, off the court, on the court during the games playing? Like, what's the craziest or your favorite memory that you had with just being around him?
I think obviously rest in peace to AP. Just a great spirit. Um, but I would say obviously the story with Lacey. That was just incredible what he was able to do for her and her family. That was really inspiring, and it was so great what he was able to do. I think it speaks, obviously about his character. So that, and then I would also say the 40-point game that he had against Delaware in the NCAA tournament, that first game, it was incredible the way that he was able to do that. Transition threes, post up baskets, drop offs, screen and rolls, trail threes, pick and pop threes. I mean, it was just, turnaround jump shots in the post. I mean, it was just incredible watching somebody get 40 in an NCAA tournament game. And the variety of ways in which he was able to do it and the efficiency he was able to do it with was just incredible. So I think he showed his full talent that game.
Second year as a GA, you guys go out there and it's a Final Four run this time. And this is Denzel's year where he becomes the player of the year and he stepped into that role now, as well as a lot of the great pieces around that team. Yeah, Brandon obviously there. Green Forbes comes in. What was that year like?
It was crazy because, you know, the team wasn't supposed to be that good. Like it was, I think we might have been ranked like around the 20s in the country going into preseason. And we just had a bunch of dudes that had a chip on their shoulder. The year before that, they were, we were ranked number 2 going into the preseason and we fell short making the Elite Eight. And actually, Keith Appling, their group, that him and AP, they were the first group that wasn't able to go to a Final Four, as a part of the Michigan State program. So Travis Trice was a senior that year. Brandon Dawson, they were the seniors, and every year or every time from the time that the year we went to Elite Eight, every time that we broke up down a huddle, we said Indy because that was where the Final Four was. So it was like Indy on 3 every single time, and that was the mission. And, dudes just grinded, and really got better, and everybody kind of grew into the players that they were, and was able to obviously go to the Final Four that year, which was an incredible run.
Getting to see your brother perform at that level in terms of being a player of the year and achieve everything he did that season, what was it like getting a first-hand experience and witnessing that?
It was incredible. So fun. I he asked me all the time, because that was his junior year. So he asked me all the time, when did I know that he was going to be a pro?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that first game we played, it was Duke. And I think we might've got blown out that year because we ended up playing Duke in Champions Classic and the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he was moving and his game, how much he had improved, I was like, okay, like, and then we played, I remember we played at Notre Dame that year. We played Kansas in the Orlando Classic around Thanksgiving. Like there were some times that year where I'm like, man, this dude is actually really, really good player, and had 20 and 10 in the Final Four against Duke. One of the best teams Duke has ever had that year. So it was really cool for me because he was kind of like my guinea pig, in some ways, because I was the guy that was working him out and helping him get better. And so obviously our coaches and Coach Izzo put him in the position out there on the floor. And the different coaches, DJ and Coach Fife and OG, the way that they were able to give him confidence and put him in positions out there on the floor was super beneficial. But as far as his skill work, I was probably one of the main guys helping him get better individually. And so for him to get that much better, it kind of validated, okay, I think I know what it takes to get guys to the next level. So it was fun for me as a coach to see that. And then it was also really fun for me to watch him as his brother doing great things out there on the floor.
What would you say is the biggest thing you took from Coach Izzo? That's an all-time great coach, a Hall of Fame coach. What was the biggest thing that you've taken from him that you've now applied into your arsenal as a coach?
Everything.
Mm.
I mean, he's family atmosphere, energy level needed every day, accountability with your players, accountability with your staff, relationships with your players, relationships with your staff, relentless recruiting. I could just go on and on. He does so much for so many people, and having a relationship with the other sports coaches on campus. I mean, there's just so many things that he does, having a great relationship with the media, so many different things that he does, being blue collar, being approachable for anybody to come up to, inviting high school coaches to your practices. I mean, there's just so many things that he does as a head coach that are one of a kind and so blue collar, and he's never changed who he is. And that's why he's had the success that he's had. And obviously I'm so lucky to have him as a mentor.
Then you decided to take that opportunity to go back out to Oakland. Then you become an assistant coach now. You officially are a coach now on a coaching staff. So how'd you get that opportunity?
So I really truly think it was because we went to the Final Four that year, and I was able to, as you kind of go and you advance in the NCAA tournament, people start telling the same stories over and over again. So the media is thirsty to kind of come up with some new stories. And the fact that me and my brother, I was a GA on the team with my brother, it started to become more of a story. And so I think as we made that journey, I was lucky and fortunate that my brother was playing so well. And that Coach Izzo had given me the opportunity to be a GA because I started getting more attention. And then, Coach Campy kind of approached me, even before, I think a day before the Final Four game. And I went out to breakfast with him, and he offered me the job. And really lucky and fortunate to get that.
So you head out there and you get to coach a really unique player, one of the more unique players, I'd say, in overall college basketball for a while. And that's Kay Felder, a guy that made the NBA jump from not necessarily a high major type school, obviously, and at Oakland to the NBA. And obviously wasn't the tallest player either. So take us through just being around that guy. To be able to kind of watch Kay Felder play at the level he did that season. What was that like, being able to be able to witness that?
It was showtime every night, for real. I mean, what he was able to do, I tell our guys this all the time. We played against Washington at Washington, and they had DeJounte Murray and Matisse Thybulle, who are two of the best even defenders right now on the perimeter in the NBA. And we literally went 1-4 flat ISO with K, and he beat that team basically. I mean, there was other guys. Jalen Hayes had a double-double that game. Martez Walker hit shots. Max Hooper hit shots. We had but I think he had in the third, like 30 and 35 and 10 or something like that. And it was all ISO. It was absolutely incredible, breathtaking to watch. And so the lobs he would catch and the chip that he would play with, the dog that he would play with, and hit the pace that he played with in the full court, and the passes he would throw. I mean, it was just remarkable getting to watch him play. And Kay is one of my favorites to this day. We have a great relationship. He actually came up this past summer and spoke to my team here at Loyola, and had a great year in China this year hooping. Mm-hmm. That's my guy. And Kay will forever be my guy. And I really, really love coaching him because of how competitive he was and how much he brought it every single game.
What player you've coached so far, including at Michigan State 2 years there, and now obviously at Oakland for 2 years, and now at Loyola, who would you say has been the most competitive player that you've coached?
That's really hard. I've been around some competitive dudes, man. I have. I mean, I don't even know if I mean, Denzel. I mean, Braden Norris here right now, Lucas Williamson, Tate Hall, Ben Richardson, Cam Crow. I mean, all the guys that I've been around that have been great have been extremely competitive. Travis Trice was extremely competitive at Michigan State. Obviously, Bryn was extremely competitive and didn't want to lose, and still doesn't want to lose at everything or anything, even off the court stuff. So there's so many guys. Dante Ingram was crazy. Marcus Town. I mean, just the list goes on. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody if you guys are watching this. Clay Custer was extremely competitive. Yeah, all the greats that I've ever been around have all been that way.
So you go through that 2 years time span, and kind of asked the question a little bit earlier, but if someone would have came and told you at that point in time that you were going to be a head coach now in just about 4 or 5 years, what would your reaction have been?
That sounds about right. It's hard because obviously I love, I want to be humble, and I don't want to present myself in a bad way, but you have to dream big and kind of think different, but you got to work behind the scenes to back it up. And so I felt like I would put the work in that needed to get to that point. So I would probably say, yeah, that sounds about right.
I know some people might ask this, but when you look at a coach, what does working off the court kind of look like? When you talk about hard work and putting in extra time in, like, how do you exactly do that to become a better coach?
I think you just do whatever it takes for you to be individually the best coach you can be for your head coach when you're not a head coach, for your head coach and for your players. So any sort of creative ideas you can think of, that's the main thing, as black and white as you could be, is what can I be doing at this? What can I accomplish today that's going to help my head coach or that program, Loyola Chicago, be the best it could be? What can I do today for my players to accomplish their dreams? And when you think about those two things, they really go hand in hand, because the players are the most important thing of the program. When your players are really good, then your program's really good. So just doing whatever you can to get the best players you can get and to get your players the best that they could possibly be. Just keep that in sight, keep that your focus, and everything else will work out.
After 2 more years, then you obviously get the opportunity at Loyola Chicago. How did that opportunity come to be?
So I knew Brian Mullins, who's the head coach at Southern Illinois. I just met him, just being on the road, networking like how all of us coaches do. And, he asked me if I'd be interested in coming to Chicago. My brother had just finished his first year with the Bulls, and I told him I love Chicago and I'll check it out. And I got to campus, and it's the same as, our recruits are. When you get on this campus here at Loyola, you feel a certain energy, a certain vibe, a buzz. And, it's beautiful right here on the lake. And I walked around and saw the facilities and listened to Coach Moser and his energy, and the team that they had coming back, I knew was going to be pretty good. So it was like the combination of all those things made this really attractive for me. And, some people might have thought that it was a lateral move at the time, but I thought, there's no way with the projecting way that this program, where this program was headed, I thought this was a no-brainer. And so I got here, and then these trophies came right after.
And that is the unique thing, because as you just said, a lot of people might say, okay, Loyola Chicago, now it's a much bigger brand name, obviously would technically be an upgrade if people look at it today. But at that point in time, those trophies weren't there. You guys didn't make the Final Four run or make the tournament now a few times. When you got there, though, and you guys go on that Final Four run, we'll talk about in a second, what was the overall atmosphere like? What was the mentality of the team going into that season? Like, did you guys expect to have that type of year?
Final fours are hard for anybody to predict, project. I think we were trying to win a championship, compete for championships. I think that was what our goal was. We played in Savannah, in the Savannah Invitational. We won that championship. And then, we wanted to win our conference regular season championship. We won that. And then we got to our conference tournament. We won that championship. And then we got in the NCAA tournament. And coaches, one of our biggest themes that year was no finish line. Like, we wanted to have whoever our opponent was, we didn't want to put a cap on ourselves and just, we can play with anybody, we can beat anybody. And so we got in the tournament and just had that mindset. We had a group of dogs, a group of guys with chips on their shoulder, guys, that were talented, competitive. And we went out there and just performed and played at a high level, believed in ourselves, had a great, culture, obviously, with that Coach Moser and the players and, that came before us, and the assistant coaches that came before me, and just everybody that built the foundation, was fortunate to be a part of that group. And we really just we thought we were going to win a national championship.
Mm-hmm. You guys are in that tournament. Then I want to go a little bit deeper in that, because that is probably the best Cinderella run that we've had of this generation. St. Peter's gave a run for the money, obviously, this past year, but they didn't make the Final Four run that you guys did. So you take us through each game, though, as you guys were getting one upset after another. What was that experience like?
So going into the first game versus Miami, Bruce Brown, was actually, we didn't know if he was going to play or not, because he had gotten injured in the ACC tournament, and we found out he wasn't going to play. And so we felt really good going into the game. And then, we were able to go out there and execute. They still had Lonnie Walker and Jaquan Newton and Chris Likes. They were all on that team, so they had a good group. But we felt really good about our matchup going into that game. And then we were playing against Tennessee with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield and Jordan Bone. Fulkerson was on that team as well as a freshman. So we didn't know how that was going to go. I think as a coaches, I think we projected, we were really confident to our players, but They were really good. They won the SEC that year, and but we were able to, find a way to win the game. And then we thought we were going to play against Cincinnati, but they got upset by Nevada with the Martin twins and Jordan Caroline. And so we ended up playing that group. And it was a different game. Like we had literally the game before that, Tennessee was all pound you, offensive rebounds, Grant Williams, Schofield post-ups. And then we play against, Nevada that year, and they were 5 out, played 5 guards on the court and spread you out and shot a lot of threes. But we were able to, make the plays necessary to win that game. And then we were either going to play against Kentucky or Kansas State. And then we got the Kansas State matchup, and Dean Wade was who actually played with my brother this year in Cleveland. He was actually hurt. And so we got a good matchup and was able to beat them. So it's crazy.
Now, I want to kind of go through the next couple of years because you guys don't make the tournament then for 2 years in a row, but kind of skipping a little bit ahead then, obviously 3 years ago now. I think
one of those years was the COVID year, SchuZ. Come on,
yeah,
man.
exactly. Yep. So that's what I wanted to get into though, because you guys have that about, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago now in 2020, then you guys have the COVID pandemic set in, and that's obviously put everything in the world in a hectic time, but you guys are going through that time and then COVID sets in. Take us to that season though, because you guys still had a pretty solid year that year, obviously could have made a run again. What was just the overall impact that COVID had on you guys, and just how did you guys take that in when you guys found out that everything was being shut down?
Yeah, so we had lost in our conference tournament, so we knew we weren't going to the NCAA tournament, but we thought we were going to go play in the NIT. But it was crazy. We found out I was actually recruiting at a game on that Wednesday. I think it was when Rudy Gobert, when that all broke. And then the next day I was supposed to go to Minnesota to watch a player play, but I was like, I don't feel comfortable going to Coach Moser. And so then I didn't go and I stayed. And then literally that Thursday is when like the whole world started to get shut down. And then Friday, they shut our school down, our university, and sent everybody home on that Friday. And so I was happy that I didn't end up going recruiting. Yeah, that could have been another postseason run that we made going into, the following year. But I think we were able to have a good year the next year anyway.
So as a coach, I know the COVID pandemic was chaotic in countless different variations. Obviously, not just from as a coach the season and off-season workouts, but recruiting and every aspect was chaotic for you guys. So how did life change for you, and how did you adjust to that? That having to know that you're now in the middle of a pandemic, you guys can't recruit the same way. You guys are going to have a new type of workouts. You guys didn't know what was going to happen if you guys were going to play games. How did you as a coaching staff adjust to the COVID pandemic then?
I mean, you had to find a way to adapt. It's, when you get hit with different things in life, you can either pivot and try to make the most out of it, or you can sit there and feel sorry for yourself. And the productive people, the successful people, they pivot and find a way. And so that's what we try to do as a program and as a staff. And I think, the Sweet 16 run we made was a product of that.
So when you guys were getting ready for that season, then what was the off-season workouts like? Because as I said, I know you guys, a lot of people weren't able to get on campus on time, and a lot of different stuff happened there. So what was the overall off-season workouts getting ready for that following season then?
So they had Zoom workouts with our strength coach. They had those. We sent a bunch of like bands and equipment and stuff like that to everybody so that they could kind of have the same thing. And the guys just did that a couple times a week. So they did that. And then we were able to get back on campus late July. We had to be in pods. So it was like we had like basically like the freshmen that lived in the dorms together, then the sophomore, basically you came and worked out with like your class and your roommates, and like pods of like 2, pods of 4. It was like a process, went from like 2 to 4. And then like, obviously the coaches, there was different coaches that went with different pods. It was a mess, but we found a way. And our team actually all got it literally right before Thanksgiving. So our whole team got it. And then right after we got back, we had like a process, like a little 10-day process to get back to playing. And then right after that, we started our season.
As a coach, the biggest thing I think for a lot of coaches was obviously the restrictions were all crazy too, but when you're preparing for a game and then it doesn't happen because games are getting canceled. Some games got canceled about less than an hour before it even started. How did you guys adjust in that aspect when you guys were trying to prepare your team for a game and then obviously gets canceled? You guys have to postpone or reschedule, whatever it looks like. How did you guys get through that aspect?
Yeah, I think we kind of just took on the aspect of like, hey, whatever the restrictions are, whatever they tell us to do, we're just gonna fly with it and then make the most of it. And Coach Moser did a great job of leading our program. You know, he was really good with communicating to the parents. He was really good with communicating to our team, and he was really transparent about like he was giving them up to the minute updates on where we were at with everything. And so the communication was really good. And I think he did a great job leading. And obviously I love Coach Moser so much. And I thought the way that he led our team during that pandemic was just phenomenal. And I thought he did a great job. And I think we won the championship because of that.
One thing that was unique about that team and what you've continued to build now is that you guys had a lot of veteran presence on that team. Obviously, Karen Krutwig, one of the top players that in program history, he was a senior on that team. You have Lucas, obviously, at that point was a junior, obviously, I think senior overall eligibility, but then obviously got the extra year then. But all having that much veteran presence on that roster, how critical and how big that ended up becoming for you guys that year?
Well, it's huge. That's why the portal is the way it is right now. All the teams want to stay old. You know, I think like the median age of the teams in the Final Four this year was something like 21 or 20, between 20 and 21 years old. And so you want to be old and you want to stay old in college basketball. And we were able to have a really good group of vets that were completely bought in towards that, like we talked about earlier, that winning mentality. And we're all not just worried about it's my last year, I need to get 20 shots a game, but it's my last year, I need to advance in the NCAA tournament. And so we kept that goal and the main thing, no matter what, and everybody had to sacrifice a little bit so that goal could be realized.
So I do want to get into that bubble experience you guys had to go through when you guys got out to the tournament. Then you guys make a Sweet 16 and run. But I've had a lot of players come on and they've all had a majority of them, I'd say, with negative reaction in terms of on the court was fun playing the game, but off the court inside the bubble was a little chaotic. So take us out a little bit. Like, what was the bubble experience like for the tournament?
Yeah, it was interesting because those moments are so unique. You never know when you're going to get those moments again. And so when you win a game in the NCAA tournament, you want to be able to celebrate those moments with your family. And the fact that we were only able to do it with our team was unique. But at the same time, we were able to see our families in the crowd. But it was crazy, I think it was actually kind of cool though, because like all the teams were in the same hotel and everybody was in the same bubble. So it kind of felt like being in AAU again, which is unique because you don't get that experience in college a lot. And so while it was a little awkward, seeing your opponent in the same hotel of an NCAA tournament game, it was also pretty cool that, your colleagues and other players that you might have recruited, you saw them and got to catch up with them at the same time as getting to compete versus them.
Before we get into the transition of you becoming head coach, now I do want to get a little bit into Coach Moser because you two obviously formed a great duo as a coaching staff. You were his lead coordinator, then became associate coach and all that then for a couple of years. But what was it like just learning from him, being around him for 4 years? How big was that for you in your career? And just what was it like being around him for that much of your career?
Yeah, I mean, he's just an incredible, person, incredible basketball coach. I tell people all the time, I respect him so much as a person, what he's gone through, the adversity that he's had to overcome. Just his story is just incredible. It's so motivating for me. He's such a great husband, to his wife. He's such a great dad to his kids. And that's one thing that I really respect about him is who he is as a person, his values. They really align with me. And although we might be, different with where we come from, our values within our core are the same. And that's why we got along so well and why I respected him so much. And then you talk about him as a basketball coach, his basketball mind, how he coaches both sides of the court. He's a genius. He's a wizard. And I really respect his preparation. I really respect, the way he goes about things and culture first, team first. And he's going to have a great, rest of his career, and he's going to do great things at Oklahoma.
I know it hasn't happened yet, but if we ever get that Oklahoma Loyola matchup, or if you end up having to go somewhere else to play against him, What would that matchup be like having to go coach against the guy that you were coaching alongside then for 4 years of your journey?
Yeah, I think it'd be not fun. One thing, going against people that like you truly love and care about, it's not fun. Like one of my favorite parts about us going to the Atlantic 10 is that I don't have to play against Brian Mullins anymore. That's one of my best friends in this thing. So going against Coach Moser, I don't want that game. I know he doesn't want that game, but if we end up playing each other for the national championship, which would be a dream of mine, Loyola versus Oklahoma in the national championship game, hey, we'll both be winners on that night.
Well, let's get into then you having to get this opportunity then, because obviously it's after the COVID pandemic year, you guys have the Sweet 16 run. Then all of a sudden the rumors start coming on, and Coach Moser decides to finally take his opportunity to take the big jump now and go take Oklahoma job. When this was all going and unfolding, though, obviously we found out that you're going to get promoted a little bit after that. But when did you start realizing that, you actually have a shot at becoming the head coach now? Like, when did that start setting in for you? And just take us through the process of you becoming the head coach now.
So 2 years prior, Coach Moser almost took the job at St. John's, and ever since then, it kind of because Brian Mullins, who was our associate head coach at the time, he had taken the job at Southern Illinois. So because Brian wasn't there anymore and Coach Moser was about to leave, and we built a great culture, our athletic director, Steve Watson, approached me, about, if something were to happen, what would kind of be like my vision, what, I would be considered. And so, Coach Moser obviously didn't take the job at St. John's, but after that, I think I really got better as an assistant coach with thinking about how I would run the program if it were me, or what I can do to really help Coach Moser and put our program in best position to be successful. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity and how easy the process was. Steve Watson, our AD, has been great. He's been phenomenal with me so far. And it's been a true blessing. And yeah, the process was really easy because I think I spent a couple years kind of auditioning for the job and getting to know Steve and have those conversations. And Coach Moser really encouraged me to do so. He knew I wasn't trying to talk to Steve and trying to get him fired to take his job or anything, but he wanted me to be prepared to be head coach. And so I'm grateful to him for that. And he encouraged me to build a good relationship with our administration and different people around our program. So.
Knowing that you were having the title as the youngest head coach in college, obviously that's a unique thing. There's not many people that can say that. It's only one person at a time that can say that. But to know that you were a head coach before you even turned 30, as you kind of talked into existence, what did that mean to you?
A lot of things. I'm grateful for the people that have came before me. I'm grateful for all the different African American coaches or minority coaches that have kind of paved the way for me to do this job. I'm grateful for the players that laid the foundation down in this program at Loyola Chicago, the 1963 team, to the diversity and social justice that group kind of took forward. I'm grateful for the players that I got to coach my life, as a coach, that have helped me, have individual success, but based on the success that and belief and trust that they've had in me. The mentors that I've had in my life, my parents, helping me in my life, helping me get to this point. My wife being there to support me. There's just so many people that I was thankful for and grateful for, and knowing that I didn't do this all by myself, and really just humbled, and the other assistant coaches that helped me along my journey and gave me some game, and assistant coaches at Loyola that helped build this program with Coach Moser. I mean, there's just so many people that just came into my mind as far as the gratitude that I had in those moments.
When you first got this job and you first had to start really switching your mindset to saying, now, okay, I lead this program now, I'm kind of in charge of it. Was that hard for you to take some time to adjust to become the head coach, or what was the adjusting period like for you?
Yes, I'm still adjusting. There's just so many different things that go into this job every single day. And, you got to have really good people around you. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned this year, was that you got to really delegate well and trust people, and have good, loyal staff members around you that can help you do your job at a high level. And, I think I'm still learning how to do that. I'm still learning how to manage that balance, and hopefully I'll continue to get better at it.
So year one is now in the books. You guys went 25-8. How would you view your season though? Did you say that was a successful year for yourself? Did you want to achieve a lot more? Or how do you view year one?
Um, I think there's a lot more to achieve. I thought we had a good year. I don't think we got the result that we wanted. I thought we had a group, obviously we, finished ranked in the top 30 of the country, and we lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But at the same time, we were still able to, you know, advance our brand, and we were able to advance our program in a level that says, okay, we're here, we're consistent, we're a team that's going to be on that level every year. So we did some really good things as far as the brand, showing that I'm not just a 30-year-old head coach, but I might know what I'm doing a little bit. So we did a lot of good things, but we also didn't accomplish our goals. So motivated that we fell short and want to accomplish more, but also proud of what we've been able to do with this program and help, the sustained success that we've been able to have.
Going to this year's team now, you guys obviously lost a lot of seniors, a lot of great pieces that helped you guys become the program that you guys were last year. But one guy I really want to go into real quick is Lucas Williamson. He obviously is a great all-time player now at Loyola, and he's someone that I truly do believe will find his role in the NBA. Just as a winning player, he knows what he's doing in that aspect. So how big of an impact did he have on this program? And what do you kind of remember about him when you kind of reflect back on all your years with him? What kind of comes to mind when you think about Lucas?
Winner.
Mm-hmm.
I think about him just doing whatever it took. Obviously he worked extremely hard at his individual game to put himself to have success, but he truly never cared one time. He only averaged double figures one time in his career, and he's an all-time great, which, you don't really see that a lot in college basketball. Normally the guys that are all-time greats, they score a lot of points or they have, crazy stats, where Lucas is more known for his character, his culture, and that he was able to be the greatest winner in our program's history. And so I'm going to miss coaching him. I'm going to miss, seeing the jump ball go up and seeing number one out there on the court and feeling a sense of confidence with him being out there on the court. But excited for his future. And I know, obviously, I'm biased, but I know he's got a long career ahead. And I think here in the NBA.
Well, you've now put together a new look roster. You guys are pretty much set now. We know who's pretty much on this roster now heading into next season. How excited are you now for year two?
I'm really excited. We're making that transition to the Atlantic 10,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we've got a team that can be in position to play for championships and win championships and chase those. Really excited with the guys that are coming back within our program. Excited for their futures. Excited about our freshmen and excited about our transfers. I think we got a good blend of experience, transfers, and freshmen. So I'm excited to get everybody here in a couple of weeks and get to work.
How big was the A10 move for you guys? Obviously, I have to imagine you probably knew a little bit before everyone else knew about it happening. But when you guys make this jump now, obviously it's a much larger conference. In my opinion, I think it's right there up with the high major conferences and an incredible conference. How big is that for this program?
Yeah, I think it's huge. There's so much talent. There's so many great cities to visit, so many great educational schools, so many great history, great rich tradition, and then, obviously multiple bids into the NCAA tournament every year. So we're excited about joining this conference. We're excited with us joining the already strong conference, what this conference could look like. And excited to see, where this thing goes and where we can take it.
So what is your approach when the transfer portal time comes around? Because you obviously have landed a lot of guys that are underrated players coming in now, that people that truly know the game and watch all levels know who they are. But you guys add guys like Bryce, who's a big time player. You guys add Phillip, you guys add in Sheldon, a lot of different pieces too. What is your approach when the portal comes around? Like, what are you looking for in a player, and how do you kind of bring in the guy that you brought in?
We want to find people that we think are going to, obviously you got to be a good enough player first and foremost. So whether that we kind of know kind of what positions that we need based on, kind of where our team is at moving forward. So we look for, positionally or role kind of what we need. If the player is good enough to be a good player in that role or at that position for us. And then we really start to evaluate, like the deal breakers for us are the the character, the culture, the academics, the work ethic, their families. There's so many different things, but it's truly 50-50 here at Loyola. And that's why we've had the national success that we've had, is because it's not 75 as a basketball player and 25 off the court. It's truly 50-50. They go hand in hand. And so we really evaluate that as much as we do if they can fit us stylistically on the court.
We've got a couple more questions before I let you go, Coach, and they're kind of a little quicker ones. But the first one is that we know you as a very energetic coach, and there was one moment, I believe it was during the conference championship game, that you ended up sliding down there, and another pretty famous picture of you laying down there. So you got to take us to that moment, like what exactly all went down there, and just what caused that kind of emotional outcome.
Yeah, so actually during that moment, Marquise Kennedy was playing defense on the court. And Marquise, I yell at him sometimes from the court when I know something is coming, like that we watched in scouting. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he'll come to the side and I'll be like, Marquise, what happened? And he'll be like, I didn't hear you. And so I was trying to get his attention and he wasn't listening to me. So I got down on the court and I tried to look up so he could see me. And then he looked over at me and gave me a thumbs up. So I was just trying to get his attention.
And another aspect is one of the most notable characters in college basketball is Sister Jean. So you got to take us through your relationship now, like being able to be around her for the past few years now, your career and your journey. What's that been like?
It's been great. I mean, she's an incredible ambassador for our program, for our university. And just she's great for us. Anytime that we want to talk to her, I have a whole binder right here, actually, with her emails. This is pretty cool. This is a little inside look. This is all this is going back to March 31st.
Wow.
All the emails. She has the whole roster. This is what she sends, some stuff like that she sends the team. So this is pretty cool. And all the emails that she sent me. So she made this for me after the year. So yeah, I love our relationship.
So what does she bring as a member of this team now? Because I know she's basically always traveled as much as she possibly can. I know COVID made it difficult for different things there, but what does she mean to this team each year? Like the identity of you guys, the culture, the locker room presence. Like what does she mean to the program?
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously a very calming presence. She prays for our team. She gives us strength. And like she's just the most positive person ever. And so like, why would you not want somebody like that as, somebody that represents your program or your brand? And she gives us that national person that everybody kind of recognizes. So love sister, and she brings a lot for us, and we're lucky and so blessed to have her.
There's a tweet I also want to ask about, and that's from Draymond Green. Obviously, I know everyone knows who that is, one of the most respected, not just players now, but also members of the media has become now. And just want to hear your thoughts on this. He said Drew Valentine just went toe-to-toe with Tom Izzo on ESPN and lost to the buzzer. Guy he's watched his entire life. He actually coached that Williams at 30. If I'm an athletic director, I'm locking the 30-year-old in hopes he will run my program for the next 30 years. When you hear something like that from someone like Draymond Green, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, obviously, I've known him for such a long time, and I've got immense respect for him. You want to talk about a winner? Mm-hmm. I mean, high school state champion, Big Ten champion, Final Fours, NBA champion, Olympic gold medal. I mean, just the ultimate winner, and an underdog, somebody that nobody thought would be doing and having the career that he's having. And so immense respect. And so for him to think of me that highly, it means a lot for me. And it's, again, validating on the hard work that I put in, and, the fact that he was able to give me a little love. It means a lot. And I always appreciate him, and got a great relationship with him.
So we talked earlier about your goal that you want to be a coach before you turn 30 now. And obviously you achieved that goal. It's in the books, you accomplished it. I know anyone that has big goals and dreams, you always have the next goal you want to reach. So what's next for you? Like, what is on your blueprint? What do you want to achieve now in the next maybe a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years even? Like, what do you have in store for yourself goal-wise that you want to achieve for yourself?
I want Loyola Chicago to win a national championship. I think some people might think it's crazy, but we don't. We were in the Final Four. We were up by 10 with 10 minutes to go in the Final Four in 2018. And, we feel like we've got the culture. We feel like we've got the character. We feel like we've got, enough resources in place to have a team good enough to do that. And so that would be my biggest goal right now, is to get to the point where we can win a national championship here at Loyola.
whenever your time does come, you decide to move on from Loyola Chicago, if that is for another job, if that's just to retire and move on from basketball, what do you want your legacy to be when you do leave? Like, what do you want to be remembered for what you accomplished as a coach on and off the court?
Yeah, I want to be recognized as, with my legacy as somebody that did it his way, with the sneakers and, with the swag and with the way that we're taught. Well, I'm talking to my players and giving them confidence and belief in themselves. Like, I want to be known as somebody that's just kind of like a wavy dude, a revolutionary type of dude, a leader of this next generation of college basketball. That's kind of what I want to be, want one of my legacies to be.
Now, I do want to get into your faith a little bit. So, kind of talk about God. Like, how big has He been in your journey to help you get to this point, help you kind of become the person and the coach that you are today?
I think it's really important for everybody to, have something that they believe in, and obviously, God is something that I was, grew up going to church, and it's big for me and my family, and obviously not the biggest, religious guy, but definitely a believer, and definitely pray and definitely feel blessed and fortunate to be in the place that I am. And I know it's because of a higher power. And I believe that I was, put here to do some incredible things. And I'm really fortunate that I'm able to live out my dreams because of the path that God has had for me. So, obviously it means a lot to me. And it means a lot to the ideals that we have here at Loyola, being a Jesuit school as well.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, my final question for you. Give Loyola fans in the country in general your three biggest goals that you have set for the next season.
Number one, compete for championships, multiple. Number two, have all of our players. I always talk about 3.0, but let's say I have all of our players over 3.3 GPA.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, get a Nike PE, get a Nike Dunk PE. That would be a goal. That would be a dream of mine. Would be if we can cut down some nets, if we can excel in the classroom at a high level, and then me personally, if I can get an exclusive Nike deal, that would be pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, congratulations on the finishing of year one. I'm excited to see what God's got next for you, not just this year, but in the future. And once again, I appreciate you taking time to come on today.
Thank you. Appreciate you for having me.
Of course, you're always welcome on, Coach. God bless.